Come to Lethbridge and join an innovative community for entrepreneurs. With more than a quarter of the 100,000 population under the age of 34, Lethbridge brims with energy. We'll help you to kickstart, innovate, and grow. Lethbridge, Southern Alberta's hub for innovation and technology. It's the bright choice for business builders. Go to chooselethbridge.ca/entrepreneur and we'll help you move and grow in Lethbridge.
Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hi, it's Bonnie LG with Canada's podcast. And today we're talking with Calgary-based entrepreneur Guillermo Sauzer, who is the co-founder and CEO of ICwhatUC, a technology company that offers customer service self-support using augmented video. So we're going to dig into that in a little bit. But first of all, Guillermo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bonnie. I really appreciate you setting this up.
Yeah. Well, you have a really interesting story to share about your company. But before we get into that, let's take a bit of a step back. And can you tell our listeners a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and your history as to what's taken you to where you are today?
Certainly, not a problem. I mean, so I started, I was in my professional career for 22 years, came out of university and started with a big four firm and worked with them for a number of years, and then was on my own for a bit. So like many people in the Alberta region, I was an independent contractor for a number of years and worked with many different companies along the way. And there was a point in kind of my journey where I realized that I've been working with a group of people that I really enjoyed working with. And we had complementary skill sets and complementary offers to the marketplace. And at the time, there was a bit of a gap in the marketplace in terms of the ability for our collective or the market to buy services that were local and skilled and coordinated, right, and organized, and versus just the big firms. And so the big thing that we offered relative to the staffing organizations that are out there, or certainly there's a good marketplace and market for them, is we operated kind of like an intermediate offering where we were organized, coordinated, and we were all using the same methodologies and the same principles and same approaches. So the market was really receptive to that, and we were ultimately acquired by Deloitte in 2013, and worked for Deloitte for 3.5 years, just a little over that, and then went back into the entrepreneurial space again after being with Deloitte.
Okay. Well, I think your journey is really interesting and timely, because currently, certainly in Calgary, and I think across Canada, we're seeing people needing to reinvent themselves or making that transition from more of a traditional corporate role into perhaps owning their own business or partnering with somebody and founding a business. So can you tell us a little bit about what that transition was like for you when you made the change?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's important for people to understand or to get their heads around you don't hear a lot about follow your passion, right? And I think that's maybe a bit misleading. I think it should be stated as be passionate about a problem, right? It's probably a better way of putting it in terms of converting that into entrepreneurialism. Certainly, if you're passionate about cross-country skiing and you cross-country ski every day, you should go do that. But if you're trying to find a problem to solve as it relates to cross-country skiing, then understand what that looks like and be passionate about that problem. And so my journey in terms of both the consulting piece, I have also a consumer products company called Raven Hockey. And then in addition to that, starting up ICwhatUC is really finding a passion for a problem. So with Quattro, when we founded that, it was about the inefficiency in the marketplace for delivering enterprise technology projects. For Raven Hockey, it was the inability to find a stick in the marketplace for players under 13 years old. And then with ICwhatUC, it really was a challenge, a frustration with customer service and how we consumed it, and then how it's deployed and delivered. And at each point, different types of technology was used to be able to achieve that efficiency in an inefficient market. Some of it really old technology, like the consulting space, is really about just being coordinated. In the Raven space, it was commercial, physical technology, material-based technology, and design, and then also go to market. And then ICwhatUC, it's really about edge technology, cloud computing, all these things that we're really beginning to emerge in our day-to-day life and bringing it together into a single consumable product. So, 3 different problems passionate about each of them equally, and certainly much more passionate at the time when we executed on those different situations or opportunities, I should say. And then, and I guess getting into a point that for those that are considering entrepreneurialism, really thinking about how you can go to market and figuring out how you can get your first customer. And I know that sounds obvious, but it's very, you make yourself very vulnerable when you go out there and try and sell something. And Alberta is not a great, we're not known for our sales prowess. We're known for producing things and offering the market that's willing to buy, whatever we produce. And that's something that everyone's got to really think through is who's going to buy it, why are they going to buy it, and how are they going to buy it? And then making yourself vulnerable so that they can buy it. Mm-hmm. That's a big, huge difference that many people don't get exposure to in their corporate environment. But that first step to selling, one person, one thing, one time, can really open up an entire career of thinking for people. And so that would be my one learning in my life is really try and find that first person to sell them something that, you don't have to overinvest in to prove out your ideas.
Mm-hmm. So did you know, like as you were in your corporate world and working in that space, did you always have kind of that entrepreneurial spirit though inside you? Was it something that has been there all of your life, or something that emerged as you went through your career? I'm interested in what kind of gave you the courage, if you will, to make the leap and move into that space.
Well, I appreciate using the word courage, but I think it's probably more impatience and restlessness. It's probably a better way of putting it. I certainly am, the language or the privilege of being an entrepreneur is something that doesn't happen to everybody, and it's something that you create for yourself. And I think my heritage and my background and kind of my upbringing probably has a lot to do with the fact that I want to make sure that that I'm protected or I'm covered, or my family's protected, my family's covered. And I think that there's also a big part about it in frustration with some of the way that solutions are being deployed. And that would include the way people are coached, the way organizations are cultures built, what's important to different organizations. And there's just a really belief that, there's a better way that we can do this. And you can be profitable, you can make your customers happy, and you can have an inspired and aspirational group of employees working for you all at the same time. Whereas I think a lot of organizations feel that that's something you have to trade off.
Okay. So was there anything that when you made the change, it really surprised you? Like, despite the many years of experience that you had in the business world and working in a consulting firm, obviously would have a lot of exposure to different companies, but was there something that was like, wow, I didn't see that coming, or didn't, realize?
For sure. Oh, 100%. I would say that the single biggest thing that I learned, and maybe this is entrepreneurialism versus corporate, and I didn't spend too much time in corporate, but in entrepreneurialism, it's very clear that a community is out there to help everybody else. And I did not have that same experience in corporate, where entrepreneurialism, if you need help and you can find somebody, there are people that are available to help you. They'll help you on Sunday afternoon. And they typically don't expect anything in return. They want to see you be successful. So there's a mindset of abundance that is characteristic of entrepreneurialism that you have to have when you go into it. And I think that the same truth would be prepared to give back as well when someone asks you for support or help. Because it can be a very lonely journey, and it doesn't need to be. It can be a very emotionally frustrating and strenuous journey, and it doesn't have to be. It's going to be more emotional than corporate. It's going to have more ups and downs than corporate. But that is also the thrill of it, is that it's a persevere and succeed. And the people that you work with when you're in entrepreneurialism are some of the most incredible people in the world that lead with best intentions.
Well, and I think it's like you said earlier, find something that you're passionate about, but also a problem that you care deeply about that you're trying to solve. And so that definitely feeds into the emotional part of the journey as well, for sure.
100%.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about I See What You See. And I understand that this all kind of started with your frustration with a garage door.
Yes, it's true. So, and it's funny. I mean, we all have waited. We've all have called the technician and waited for a period of time.
Mhm.
And depending on who you are, what your expectations were, maybe had less than an incredible experience with your product or in your service. And so my experience was that, yes, my garage door failed and probably took about 6 to 8 weeks to actually get it sorted out. Fortunately for me at the time, it was over the summer months. I mean, it would be terrible if it was today in this cold weather we're suffering through right now. But it was a function of why, with all the technology we have available to us, why are we still waiting? Why am I waiting 8 weeks? Why am I waiting, through 9 different technician phone calls to try and get somebody that can help me? Why is that next call an hour and a half long? Why do I have to call a technician to come to my house and wait for them? And really challenge that status quo that we all kind of accept for these infrequent transactions. When in fact that you do some research, people would rather go to the dentist than call a helpline, right? And not that going to the dentist is all that bad, but it's it is something that people avoid. And so we live in this world where we have everything is on demand. I mean, you can get an on-demand ride, obviously a meal, groceries. You can get an on-demand date, but you can't get someone to give you advice on demand. That seems ridiculous. And largely it's because none of the technology is in place to make it practical. And that's what that's where we started solving the problem. So we took our problem that we conceived and did a bit of research and tested it with the market. And the market was very positive in responding that it was a problem that needed to be solved. And I think subsequent to what I was saying earlier about be passionate about a problem that needs to be solved urgently, right? And that'll help you with a whole lot of sales cycles. And so we found a problem that was needed to be urgently solved and went to market with it. And the market's been incredibly receptive, and they have supported us in helping develop features and make sure we're building the best product for their circumstances, which really has driven out a lot of the differentiation within our product and all the other competitors that are out there, or maybe substitutes and competitors in the market.
Okay. So who are your customers with your product? Like who are you reaching out to?
So we typically target, they 3 qualifying criteria. They have to have customers that are distributed. They've got a service teams that are distributed, and service has to be a cost center. Those are where we really do well. And so that qualifies where our verticals we target, which is utilities, construction, and construction services. Within those 3, let's say 2 verticals, 3 sub verticals, we do really well. And as we're learning within the market and building products that fit them, that are built to purpose for their industries.
Okay. So I was doing a bit of research and I read that you actually secured a pilot. Was it with the ATCO?
Yes. Yeah,
So
we were very fortunate.
can you tell us a little bit about that? I think our listeners would be really interested, to be able to get that first big opportunity like that, which then can help to start to create that momentum for growth, would be
Sure.
really helpful.
Well, it's a good piece of evidence around what I was saying earlier around the network is very willing to help you with introductions, if you're one that gives it back. And so I had a previous idea that I pitched to somebody that didn't work out. And then, and subsequently we kind of connected a number of times. I'd helped him out a little bit and he'd helped me out a little bit. And then we had this idea for I See What You See, and we had a product in place that we could talk to. And so we talked to this fellow or a friend of mine he's got a startup as well that, in the marketplace, Norm Bogner, and asked Norm, said, "Hey, Norm, could we get an introduction to your folks at ATCO so we can pitch you on what this idea is?" And we sent them a pretty, a bit of a teaser deck and said, "Hey, can we come together for a meeting? We'll talk through it." And the executives that came into the room, we were fortunate, and this is a combination of like, do you need to be lucky or is it luck or skill? I really am a belief that you got to be ready more than anything else. And so we were ready for a meeting for these executives. They came in and we had probably a 45-minute meeting about what we wanted to do and our vision for the world. And they agreed. And so they promptly pushed us and said, get it done. And we were fortunate. I mean, utilities may or may not get a bad reputation for lack of innovation, but our experience has been very, very much in terms of they're looking to make their customer experience better. They're looking to innovate. and that they're very, very well, they're a great partner to have for sure. And then every single one we've had in terms of the utility space has been equally as engaged in driving out innovation to solve this urgent problem for them.
Right. So how have you grown your company? Like if we were to talk a little bit, I understand that you're expanding across North America and even work with customers in Australia.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So how did that growth happen? Like how do you make that
Again, I think it's a lot about understanding the human condition and what everyone is looking to do in terms of being successful. And so we take a lot of pride in making sure we understand the motivations of our customers, what makes them successful, what makes them fulfilled, and ensure that we're giving them, much as we can in terms of information, data, things that they can share so that they can become advocates for us. Ultimately, as a human, if you've made a good decision, there's nothing better than telling somebody else about that decision. And so we want to make sure that they're empowered with enough information so they can share that with as many people as possible. And so we produce monthly content that they can share about their choices and how they're impacting their particular function. And we allow them, we build it so it's shareable. And so from there, we've gotten a tremendous amount of advocacy from our customer group because of the transformative impact on their business services and business functions, and how easy it is. We make it so simple for them to tell the story. We basically bundle it up for them, so they've got an image that tells the story for them, and that drives a lot of that internal engine around, recommendations for us, right, within the sales network. And then outside of that, we've done a tremendous amount of work in learning about the industry problems and how we can begin to really provide a relative benefit to everybody within the industry and working to educate the industry on what's possible when things are really easy to do.
Tech Connect, a center for entrepreneurship and innovation in Lethbridge, has been springboarding entrepreneurs to success for 10 years and counting. Our spirit of innovation is a way of life. We have an incredible environment. Our innovators are not afraid to stand apart because they know that in Lethbridge, we are brighter together. We are Lethbridge. Come and join us. Go to chooselethbridge.ca/entrepreneur and we'll help you move and grow in Lethbridge.
So how do you do that in a world that we're in right now where you're not able to go to conferences or have those face-to-face boardroom meetings? Like how has the last 12 months impacted the way that you do your business?
There's been some tailwinds. It's been incredible. So to the conference conversation, this year we're attending our first rounds. Oh, actually, we attended some of the fall conferences, and they're virtual conferences. And so we have an ability to be in many places at once. So what would have been a previous constraint around, say, travel or logistics or budget, don't exist any longer. And so we're able to get in front of many, many people very quickly, obviously multiple people, multiple parts of the world in a single day. And now that we're all very accustomed to having these conversations, like we're having right now over video, we scale, our sales operations on any given day. We've sold from Turkey through to Perth, Australia, all in the same day. And you just manage the schedule, and you're not flying anywhere. You're not, you just manage timetables. And so if you've got an 8 a.m. meeting in Calgary, that's 5 p.m. in Istanbul time. And if I've got a 5 p.m. meeting in Calgary, that's 8 a.m. Perth time. And you just make it work. And so, but in a single day, I can touch, 15 time zones. And so it's more of an opportunity than it is a constraint. And certainly for the product that we're talking about and talking to for ICwhatUC, there's an appetite to solve a problem. And again, we've had enough sales cycles that we are comfortable having the discussion very quickly and very clearly about the value proposition we provide and how how we de-risk their business and how easy it is to deploy.
Excellent. So where do you hope things will be in 5 years from now? Will you have another company or
5 years? That's a long time away. That's like a lifetime. That's a lifetime. Okay. I think that practically speaking, ICwhatUC will be a very big company in 5 years. The leadership team will still be in place. And, I hope that we're I mean, our measure stick is that we've changed what people expect from a field service perspective. And the way of doing work will be the ICwhatUC way. And that will completely transform the way work is performed, making it safer, quicker, obviously less expensive, and certainly much less complex than the way it is today. There's an overriding complexity in the way work is performed right now that the system is just been, it's been over investing in making it more complex rather than trying to making it amazingly simple. And so that's something that we really focus on. So in 5 years, we're a $500 million company. We're in at least 5 continents. We're helping people all over the place. Some things we're really aspirational about is we want to build in real-time translation so that we really can enable service for anyone, from anyone at any time. So that if you're not an English speaker but you have an English service center, they can support you and help you using augmented reality, using artificial intelligence, and using real-time translation. And that's a world we'd love to see, love to think about, is where we've got instant accessibility to service for anyone around the world at any time. And that's not available right now because of geography, cultural age, all those different reasons, and affordability. So we can bust down those barriers and we can really transform the way service is consumed. Then we will have achieved our mission and we'll be well on our way to being incredibly successful and changing the way people think about the way they deliver work.
Wow. Well, I look forward to that conversation in 5 years to to hear about all the success that you've had. Before we get into just a couple of personal questions to kind of round out the interview, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, we know that Calgary is going through a transition in terms of its economy and focus, and moving away from maybe more of that traditional oil and gas industry that the city's been known for, into more of a space for technology companies and a real concerted effort to attract those types of companies to Calgary. And I'm just wondering what your perspective is as the owner of a company, a founder of a company that plays in that space. How is Calgary to do business?
Well, our experience is a great example of the Calgary story, right? I mean, we had people that helped us provide our first introductions, and then our customers helped us with other introductions. There's a genuine desire in Calgary, in a Calgarian, to help other people. Mm-hmm. And I think that entrepreneurialism is a vehicle for us to demonstrate that and prove that out to the world. And so for everybody that's out there, right, trying to figure out how to make the pivot, maybe the answer isn't how you can sell someone or how you can ask someone for a favor, but get out there and see how you can offer support. Mm-hmm. Right? How can you find out what you can contribute? And that can be coaching, that could be even being a trial customer, being a devil's advocate, being all those different things that any entrepreneur or anybody with an idea needs to have access to in order to be successful. And there's a lot of folks in town that are doing really good jobs at bringing those communities together, and those groups have been leading the way for a number of years in enabling it. And I would say that why I'm optimistic is that before, the big challenge for maybe technology was we had to compete with oil and gas. Mm-hmm. And oil and gas was trusted, was available, was always hiring and taking obviously absorbing some of the stronger talent for every second Friday off and all those kind of oil and gas type perks. And I think now that's a challenge. I mean, I'm optimistic that now there's space for technology in this city. And I think that we're going to be, so I'll take there's space for technology in the city. The talent exists, the grit exists. And I think that the desire to get the work done, it also exists. And so with those 3-4 different catalysts just waiting to be mixed together, the rest thing we need to figure out is a problem that we want to solve, and then a way to sell it.
Great. Awesome. Thank you for that. That's a really positive way to end this part of our discussion. And before we say goodbye, just wanted to ask you, a couple questions more about the personal routines or things that you've done for yourself to be successful as an entrepreneur. So, we often hear about either the 5 a.m. morning routine or different things that people will do, business leaders will do to be successful. And I'm curious, is there anything that you can share with our listeners in terms of what you have found that works really well for you? It sounds like you're up all the time with all the different time zones that you're managing with your customers. But what are some of your keys to success, just in terms of yourself personally?
For sure. I learned late in life that I needed to have a routine. Certainly late in my professional career, and being a consultant doesn't really help that. I learned that I needed to have a morning fitness routine, and I needed to have a morning plan routine. And those came to me. The fitness routine came, I'll say, 10 years ago, less than that, 7 years ago, where I really learned that I needed to have an alertness about my day when I first started out. And that came from, working out. And so now I'm pretty regular. Obviously there's times when you fall off the bike, so to speak, but certainly, I've got the equipment now and I've got the routine, and it's important to me to do. And it's something that if I don't do it, it's very obvious to me in my day. So I miss it when it doesn't happen. So fitness will start the day off. So yeah, I get up at like quarter after 5 in the morning, 5:30, 5:45, so around there. Now we don't have to drive anymore. You can get up at 5:45 and sleep in. Totally. So, a quick workout, and then I go through a daily planning routine. I use a Panda planner, and I basically go through, what I'm grateful for. I'm reading mine right now. What I'm grateful for, what I get excited about, daily affirmation, what I'm focusing on today. And then I log my exercise, and then I talk to my priorities and my calendar. And it only takes about 15 minutes, but I find, if I've worked out in a day and I've done my 15 minute of planning, I have mental clarity around what's important during the day, and I'm able to take on those tasks. That doesn't mean that my day doesn't get taken hostage by other things and other emergencies, but I am able to really prioritize. So one of the things that I'm working on right now is building out that within our team structure. So I have a private organization routine, but now I need to have a public organization routine that I share with the team. So that's something that I'm working on doing, and then that's a, like I said earlier, in entrepreneurialism, you're always learning something new. I'm learning how to do that. And so transition from just a private routine to a public routine.
And do you have any favorite books or resources that you podcasts that kind of you go to?
For sure. I definitely, there's a book that I read about 6-7 years ago that I like to reread every other year or so, called The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. It's a wonderful book about, and I think that everybody who's listening to your podcast in Alberta would really benefit from listening to it or reading that book, because it's a quick book to read. Like most of those business books, just probably could finish it in a couple hours. But really talking about changing your mindset in giving first and understanding the value you have to offer. And I think that something that everyone's probably really dealing with is it gives you a framework for understanding compensation and what your value, what you are worth. Like just because you were paid something 2 years ago doesn't necessarily mean you're worth that right now. And so knowing what that means doesn't mean you're worth less, but it means that you're just not getting paid the same. And divorcing ourselves from the compensation metric is a way to unlock entrepreneurialism, because it's a path of challenge in terms of monetary stability. And so it's something that people should be aware of and understand that if they have peace, if they're at peace with the value they create and how the value you create is related to your compensation, not what someone else makes, then you become very aligned with the work that you do because you believe in the process. And, I really have to write this down to myself. It's in my daily affirmation today, even, to believe in the process, because the process does yield returns. It just doesn't feel like it sometimes. And so, understand the process, believe in the process, and work the process, and you will have successful outcomes.
Great. That is a book I'm going to pick up. Thank you for the recommendation.
No worries, Bonnie.
Yeah. So is there anything else at all, Guillermo, that you would like to add or share with our listeners before we end our chat today?
I think that given that we talked about earlier, like the transition that many people that's being thrust upon them, I think that there's a big opportunity for everyone to understand that, and I mentioned this earlier in a different previous discussion, that we are a pioneering province, and we need to operate and understand that we are masters of our own destiny and domain, and we need to own accountability for that. And so if there are things that are external to us that are complicating our success, we need to figure out a way to work over that, around that, or into that, through it. And that might mean changing what our offer is to the global market, or what we're offering in terms of our personal offer, and really understand that. And if we have peace with what we offer the market, we have peace with what the value is to that market, then you can really be happy. And so I think that there's this, that it's not about more stuff. It's really about the fulfillment that we can bring to market. And if you do that, like, you will find happiness. And I think that there's a big problem right now in Calgary is we've got this really, so Alberta, we've got this misunderstanding of what it means to be happy. And that's something we need to understand. And you can be happy and be wealthy at the same time. And you can also be unhappy and be wealthy at the same time. And so it's understanding what reconciliation you need to, and whatever you need to do in order to achieve those objectives. Because I've got a goal to be happy, and I've got a goal for everybody else around to be happy. Mm-hmm. I also have a goal to be wealthy. And those two things are not compromises. And I think that if we all understood the things that make us, that drive us, and understand the service that we need to provide in order to get to where we want to go, we will achieve the objectives we want to be, and we'll be the city we want to be. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big part of it, is re-understanding, or readdressing what we bring to market as a province, as a people, and as a person, and really marketing that to the world and telling the world how important that is.
And I can't think of a better way to end the interview. Thank you so much. I think that's a really important thought. And you're right, it's so timely. And given what we've all been through across Canada, but in particular, it's been maybe a bit more challenging here in Calgary. Thank you for that.
Oh, no, Bonnie, it was a pleasure chatting with you. Yeah. Thank you so much for hosting this podcast.
Yeah. So just in closing, if our listeners wanted to find you online or learn a little bit more about ICwhatUC, where can they connect with you?
Sure. Best places are Twitter and LinkedIn, or can I do all my business interests? So Twitter, Salazar 100, or ICwhatUC Live, and the same thing on LinkedIn, Guillermo Sauzer YYC on LinkedIn, or ICwhatUC Live as well on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure to have you, Guillermo, on our podcast today. Thank you so much. And
thank you, Bonnie.
Look forward to connecting with you again.
Wonderful.
Okay. Take care.
Take care.
Bold, vibrant, technological. In Lethbridge, our spirit of innovation is more than just the way we do business. It's the way we live and the way we succeed. We'll help you to kickstart, innovate, and grow in Lethbridge, Southern Alberta's hub for innovation and technology. It's the bright, affordable choice for business builders. Go to chooselethbridge.ca/entrepreneur and we'll help you move and grow in Lethbridge.